The darkness beyond Pluto held secrets that no human had ever imagined. Station Echo 17, humanity's farthest outpost in the solar system, drifted silently in the void, like a metallic beacon against the star-speckled canvas of space. Its purpose was simple yet profound: to watch, to listen, and to guard the edges of human civilization. Senior Officer Dan Miller stared through the observation deck's reinforced viewport, his breath creating small clouds of condensation in the station's energy-saving atmosphere. 3 years he had served aboard Echo 17, and in all that time, the silence had been absolute. The deep space monitoring arrays had detected nothing more than cosmic radiation, distant pulsars, and the occasional asteroid tumbling through the outer reaches of the solar system. Another quiet shift, Mike Thompson said, settling into the chair beside Dan. The younger officer's enthusiasm had dimmed considerably since his arrival 2 years ago. "Sometimes I wonder if we're just watching empty space for nothing." Dan nodded absently, his attention focused on the scrolling data streams from the station's sensors. "The silence is the point, Mike. As long as it's quiet out here, Earth remains safe." The station itself was a marvel of human engineering, built during the Great Expansion period, following the development of the Hawking Drive. Its rotating sections generated artificial gravity, while its advanced sensor arrays could detect everything from gamma-ray bursts to the faintest radio whispers from distant galaxies. Station Echo 17 was one of 12 such outposts, forming a defensive perimeter around the solar system, each staffed by volunteers who understood the importance of their vigil. "Contact from Earth Control," Mike announced, checking his console. "They're confirming the decommission schedule. We'll be heading home in 6 days." Dan felt a mixture of relief and melancholy. Echo 17 was being shut down, deemed redundant, by the Earth Council's latest defense restructuring. The Starwatch fleet, Earth's primary defensive force, would take over monitoring duties, with automated probes and long-range patrols from Mars Station. 3 years of watching nothing," Mike continued. "Maybe the next crew will have better luck finding little green men." Dan was about to respond when a sharp beeping sound cut through the cabin's ambient hum. Both officers turned to the communication console, where a red light was flashing insistently. "Signal detected," Dan announced, his voice suddenly tense. "Mike, bring up the analysis grid." The main display screen flickered to life, showing wavelength patterns and frequency readings. Dan's hands moved quickly across the interface, isolating and enhancing the signal. As the pattern became clearer, his blood ran cold. "3 short, 3 long, 3 short," he whispered. Mike leaned forward, frowning. That's an old distress pattern, from Earth's maritime history." "SOS," Dan confirmed. "But it's not coming from anywhere in our solar system." He expanded the display, showing the signal's origin point. The readings were unmistakable. The transmission was originating from a point approximately 70 light-years away, in a star system that had never shown any signs of intelligent life. "This has to be a mistake," Mike said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Equipment malfunction, solar interference, something." Dan was already running diagnostic checks, cross-referencing the signal with known sources of cosmic phenomena. Every test came back negative. The signal was artificial, purposeful, and definitely extraterrestrial. "Transmitting data package to Earth Control." Dan announced, his fingers dancing across the controls. "Priority Alpha classification." The transmission burst toward Earth, at the speed of light, carrying with it the first confirmed evidence of intelligent alien life. Dan and Mike sat in stunned silence, watching as the signal repeated its desperate pattern over and over again. Hours later, after confirming and reconfirming their findings, Dan received a response from Earth. The message was brief, but momentous. "Signal confirmed. Dr. Lisa Brown's team decoding. Stand by for further instructions." Dr. Lisa Brown worked tirelessly in her laboratory deep beneath Geneva, surrounded by the most advanced communication and cryptographic equipment humanity had ever built. As the head of the Xenolinguistics Division, she had spent her career preparing for this moment, though she had never truly believed it would come. The signal had arrived at Earth Control 6 hours ago, and since then, her team had been working to decode its meaning. The SOS pattern was clear enough, but embedded within the transmission were layers of data that suggested a much more complex message. Dr. Brown called James Mitchell, one of her junior researchers. "We've isolated what appears to be mathematical constants in the signal structure. Prime numbers, geometric ratios, classic first contact protocols." Lisa nodded, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the signal's complete structure. "What about the biological data we detected?" "Still working on that," replied Sarah Kim from her workstation. "But preliminary analysis suggests genetic information, DNA-like structures, but with differences that indicate non-terrestrial origin." The laboratory's main door hissed open, and Admiral Jack Reynolds strode in, his expression grim. As commander of the Starwatch fleet, Reynolds had seen plenty of action against pirates' asteroids and other threats to human space. But nothing had prepared him for this. "Dr. Brown," he said without preamble, "report." Lisa turned to face him, her face pale but determined. "Admiral, we've successfully decoded the core message. The signal is indeed from an intelligent species calling themselves the Vali. They're located in the Kepler 442 system, approximately 70 light-years from Earth." She gestured to her display where alien symbols scrolled alongside their translated English equivalents. "The message is a distress call, but not just any distress call. Admiral, the Vali are facing extinction." Reynolds stepped closer, reading the translated text. His jaw tightened as the words sank in. "Extinction. What kind of threat are they facing?" "Another species," Dr. Brown replied. "They call them the Dracs. According to the Valley, the Dracs are hunters. They systematically wipe out intelligent species for sport and resources. The Valley managed to get this message out, but their civilization is on the brink of collapse." The silence in the laboratory was deafening. Reynolds studied the data, his military mind already analyzing the implications. "How long do they have?" "Based on the signal timestamp and the deterioration of subsequent transmissions, we estimate weeks, maybe months at most." Reynolds turned away, staring at the wall, where a holographic display showed Earth floating peacefully in space. "This is a matter for the Council. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Continue your analysis, and keep me informed of any developments." The emergency session of the Earth Council convened in Geneva 12 hours later. Representatives from every nation, colony, and major corporation filled the circular chamber, their faces reflecting a mixture of excitement, fear, and uncertainty. At the center of the room, a holographic display showed the decoded alien message and detailed analysis of the Valley's situation. President Elena Vasquez of the European Federation called the session to order. "Colleagues, we face an unprecedented situation. For the first time in human history, we have confirmation of intelligent alien life. But this discovery comes with a terrible burden." Secretary General Yang Wei of the Asian Coalition leaned forward. "The message is clear. An entire species faces extinction. The question before us is whether humanity has any obligation to respond." "With what?" interjected Director Marcus Stone of the Mars Colonial Authority. "We're talking about a distance of 70 light-years. Even with our fastest ships and the Hawking drive, it would take months to reach them." Admiral Reynolds stood at his designated position near the council floor. "Honored representatives, I've been in contact with our best strategists and engineers. A mission to Valley Space is possible, but it would require the largest military deployment in human history." Counselor Dmitry Volkov of the Russian Federation shook his head. "The security of our own system must come first. We know nothing about these Dracs or their capabilities. What if we provoke them? What if they come for Earth next?" "That's exactly why we should act," argued Representative Sarah Ahmed of the African Union. "If the Dracs are systematically exterminating intelligent species, Earth could be on their list. Better to face them on our terms alongside allies than alone when they arrive at our doorstep." The debate raged for hours. Some counselors argued for immediate action, motivated by humanitarian concerns and the potential strategic advantage of having alien allies. Others advocated for caution, fearing that intervention might bring unwanted attention from hostile alien forces. Dr. Brown had been called to provide expert testimony. She stood before the council, holding a tablet with the latest intelligence. Esteemed counselors, I've completed my analysis of the Valley biological data. They're remarkably similar to us in many ways. Carbon-based DNA-like genetic structure, similar atmospheric requirements. But there's something else. She paused, ensuring she had everyone's attention. The Valley have been broadcasting their history, along with their distress call. They were once explorers, much like we hope to become. They had achieved interstellar travel, established colonies, created art and literature that survived them. The Drax didn't just kill them, they're systematically erasing everything the Valley achieved. The chamber fell silent. The weight of an entire civilization's destruction hung in the air like a physical presence. Admiral Reynolds stepped forward. Council members, I've prepared a proposal for Operation Doomfleet. It would consist of 27 warships, 3 fleet carriers, and 15,000 volunteer Marines. Our objectives would be simple: neutralize the Drax threat in Valley space and provide humanitarian assistance to any survivors. President Vasquez raised her hand. Admiral, what are the risks? Be frank. Significant, Reynolds admitted. We'd be taking the majority of our fleet away from Earth's defense. The journey alone is dangerous. It would be the longest Hawking drive jump ever attempted. And we know nothing about Drax military capabilities. Counselor Isabella Rodriguez of the Central American Federation had been silent throughout the debate, but now she stood. I was a refugee once, she said quietly. My family fled violence in Guatemala when I was a child. We had nothing, hoped for nothing except that someone somewhere might help us. The international community did help us, and it changed everything. She looked around the chamber, meeting each counselor's eyes. The Valley are refugees on a cosmic scale. If we turn our backs now, if we let an entire species die when we have the power to help, what does that say about who we are? What does it say about what humanity stands for? The final vote was closer than many expected, 127 to 96 in favor of military intervention. As the results were announced, Reynolds felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders like a lead blanket. He had just been handed the greatest mission in human history and the potential for the greatest disaster. Within hours of the Council's decision, Earth's military infrastructure sprang into action with an efficiency that would have impressed the ancient Roman legions. Starwatch Command began assembling Doomfleet from active vessels throughout the solar system. The flagship would be the SNV Nemesis, a Titan-class battlecruiser that had served as Reynolds' command ship for the past 5 years. Captain Tom Ford received the summons while his ship was conducting patrol operations near Saturn. The tall, weathered officer had commanded the Nemesis through pirate encounters, asteroid mining disputes, and rescue operations, but nothing had prepared him for this conversation. Captain Reynolds said via secure comlink, I need you to prepare Nemesis for extended deployment, maximum crew full combat load, and retrofits for long-range operation. Ford raised an eyebrow. How long are we talking, Admiral? 6 to 8 months minimum. We're going to Valley space. The silence stretched between them as Ford processed the implications. Valley space, sir, that's first contact. That's war, Captain. The Valley are facing extinction from a hostile species called the Drax. We're going to help them. Throughout the solar system, similar conversations were taking place. Commander Rachel Park of the carrier SNV Yorktown received orders to prepare her ship and its complement of Viper-class fighters. Major William Cooper was pulled from training exercises on Mars to lead the Marine Expeditionary Force. Chief Engineer David Kumar was tasked with retrofitting ships for the longest space voyage in human history. The selection process for personnel was unlike anything the military had seen before. Every position had to be filled by volunteers, as regulations prohibited forcing personnel into missions beyond the solar system. Reynolds was amazed by the response. Nearly every member of Starwatch volunteered for duty, far more than could be accommodated. Major Cooper stood before a gathering of 3,000 Marines in the vast hangar bay of Phobos Station. The stocky, battle-scarred officer had led peacekeeping missions on Europa and fought pirates in the asteroid belt, but his next words would commit his people to humanity's greatest gamble. "Marines," he began, his voice echoing across the metal-decked space. "You've all heard the briefings. 70 light-years from home. An alien civilization under attack. No guarantee we'll make it there alive, much less make it back." He paused, studying their faces. Young and old veterans and rookies, men and women from every nation and colony on Earth. "I won't lie to you. This mission will test everything we are. We'll be cramped in transport ships for months. We'll face an enemy we know nothing about. Some of us won't be coming home." Cooper straightened his voice, growing stronger. "But here's what I know. 15,000 Marines volunteered for this mission. 15,000 warriors said, 'Send me.' Because that's what we do. We stand between the dark and the innocent. We are the shield that protects those who cannot protect themselves." The hangar erupted in cheers and war cries. Cooper smiled grimly. These were his people, forged from the same crucible that had created the deadliest warriors in human history. Earth had been peaceful for generations, but humanity had not forgotten how to fight. The ships of Doomfleet began gathering at Luna Station, the massive orbital facility that served as Earth's primary military depot. The sight was awe-inspiring. 27 warships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with fresh paint and new modifications. 3 supercarriers formed the fleet's backbone, each capable of launching over 100 fighters and bombers. Reynolds stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching as the final preparations were completed. Supply ships moved between the warships like worker bees, loading ammunition, food, medical supplies, and spare parts. Every kilogram had been calculated and recalculated. They would be completely on their own once they left Sol. Admiral Dr. Brown approached, carrying a sealed data capsule. "The complete Valley language database, cultural files, and everything we've learned about the Drax. I wish I could come with you." Reynolds accepted the capsule. "Your work here is done, Dr. Brown. Analyzing that signal made this mission possible." "I've included something else," she said quietly. "A message from Earth. Something to give the Valley hope." As the final countdown began, Earth held its breath. News agencies broadcast the departure live to a global audience of 10 billion people. In schools, children watched as humanity took its first step into the larger galaxy. In retirement homes, the elderly prayed for the safe return of their grandsons and granddaughters. The Hawking Drive was humanity's greatest achievement, allowing faster-than-light travel through controlled manipulation of space-time. But it had never been tested over such vast distances. The journey to Valley Space would require a series of jumps, each one pushing the ships and their crews to the limits of endurance. Reynolds stood on the bridge of the Nemesis as the final systems checks were completed. Captain Ford moved between stations, ensuring every detail was perfect. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their training taking over, despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Ford announced. Reynolds nodded, settling into his command chair. "Fleet communications open channel to all ships." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Reynolds took a deep breath, knowing his words would be recorded for history. "This is Admiral Reynolds to all ships of Doomfleet. Today we embark on the most important mission in human history. We go not as conquerors, but as defenders. We carry with us the hopes of our world and the promise of a future where no species faces extinction alone." He paused, thinking of the children watching on Earth, the families saying goodbye to their loved ones. "We are human beings. We are explorers, builders, dreamers. But when the innocent face annihilation, we are also warriors. For the Valley, for Earth, for the future of intelligent life in this galaxy, fleet will advance." "All ships report jump drives engaged," the navigation officer announced. Fleet jump in 10 seconds, Ford called out. All hands prepare for transition. The countdown reached 0, and reality twisted. The Hawking drives activated simultaneously, tearing holes in space-time itself. For an instant, that lasted eternity, the ships existed nowhere and everywhere at once. Then, with a sensation like being born, they emerged into normal space 27 light-years closer to their destination. The journey to Valley Space was a test of human endurance, unlike any before it. The ships were crowded beyond normal capacity, with Marines sleeping in shifts in converted cargo bays. The recycled air carried the smell of too many human bodies in too small a space. Water was rationed, food was monotonous, and privacy was non-existent. But the crew of Doomfleet adapted as humans always had. They created routines, found moments of humor in their circumstances, and formed bonds that would last lifetimes. The ships themselves became small worlds, each with their own culture and traditions. Major Cooper instituted daily combat drills for his Marines, using the ship's cargo bays and corridors as training grounds. The importance of maintaining fighting readiness was emphasized at every opportunity. "We don't know what we'll face," Cooper told his sergeants, "but whatever it is, we'll be ready." Dr. Sarah Chen, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, used the journey to study everything known about the valley and speculate about the Drax. Her reports were distributed throughout the fleet, helping crew members understand what they might encounter. "The valley appear to be herbivorous humanoids," her briefing material explained. "Their planet has slightly higher gravity than Earth, and their atmospheric composition is remarkably similar to ours. They seem to have been a peaceful species focused on art, philosophy, and exploration." The Drax, by contrast, remained a mystery. The Valley transmissions described them as the Hunters, a species that seemed to exist solely to destroy others. No images, no biological data, only the horrifying efficiency with which they conducted genocide. Halfway through the journey, the fleet encountered its first major crisis. The SNV Wellington, one of the heavy cruisers, suffered a catastrophic failure in its Hawking drive. The ship dropped out of hyperspace in an empty system, stranded and vulnerable. Reynolds faced his first major command decision. The fleet could stop to repair the Wellington, potentially delaying their arrival at Valley Space by weeks. Or they could continue on, leaving 800 people behind. "We don't leave anyone behind," Reynolds declared during an emergency staff meeting. "Engineering teams from every ship will work on repairs. We fix the Wellington, we all go home together." The repairs took 12 days, during which the fleet's engineers performed miracles of improvisation and determination. When the Wellington's drive finally hummed back to life, the cheer that went up across the fleet could probably be heard on Pluto. As they neared Valley Space, the tension aboard the ships became almost tangible. Long-range sensors began detecting signs of the battle that was raging ahead of them. Energy signatures from weapons-fired debris fields, where ships had died, and an ominous silence where the Valley homeworld should have been broadcasting. Reynolds called his senior staff together for the final briefing before arrival. The conference room aboard the Nemesis was cramped with holographic displays, showing everything they knew about the Valley system. "Reconnaissance probes launched 6 hours ago have confirmed our worst fears," Captain Ford announced grimly. "Valley Prime is under blockade. We count at least 50 Drax vessels in a sphere formation around the planet." Major Cooper studied the tactical display. "What about ground forces? Any sign of resistance?" Spotty at best," Dr. Chen replied. "The Valley managed to get a few more transmissions out before we arrived. Their major cities are under occupation, but there are resistance pockets. The planet's capital is still fighting." Reynolds stood, his eyes fixed on the image of Valley Prime, a blue-green world, not unlike Earth, now ringed by the dark shapes of enemy vessels. "Tactical assessment, Captain Ford." Ford manipulated the display, highlighting enemy formations. "Sir, the Drax ships are unlike anything we've seen. No clear technological signatures we can identify, but they're maintaining a perfect blockade formation. Nothing gets in or out." "Strengths and weaknesses," Reynolds pressed. "Unknown, sir. We have no data on Drax weapons, armor, or capabilities, We're going in blind. Chief Engineer Kumar cleared his throat. Admiral, there is one option we haven't discussed. The Nova Protocol. Silence fell across the room. Every senior officer knew about the Nova Protocol, humanity's most classified weapon installed on every major warship, but never tested in combat. It was designed as a last resort against asteroids or other massive threats, but its power was theoretically unlimited. The Nova Protocol isn't meant for fleet combat, Reynolds said carefully. The radiation alone could affect our own ships. With proper coordination and distance, it could work, Kumar insisted. A single Nova blast could eliminate multiple enemy vessels. Major Cooper frowned. What exactly is the Nova Protocol? My Marines deserve to know what we're getting into. Reynolds looked around the room, then made a decision. The Nova Protocol is a controlled singularity weapon. It creates a small artificial black hole that collapses almost immediately, releasing enormous energy. Each of our main battleships carries one. The implications hung in the air like a physical presence. Weapons that could crack planets in the hands of beings who had never used them in anger. We use them if we have to, Reynolds decided. But only if conventional weapons fail. We're here to save the Valley, not destroy their star system. As Doom Fleet approached the edge of the Valley system, their sensors began picking up clearer images of the enemy. The Drax ships were organic in appearance, looking more grown than built. Their hulls were dark, almost black, and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Admiral, the communications officer called out. We're receiving a signal from the planet's surface. It's weak, but it's in Valley. Reynolds nodded. Put it through. The voice that emerged from the speakers was alien, but unmistakably intelligent, speaking in the musical language of the Valley. Dr. Brown's translation program had been uploaded to every ship, and within seconds, subtitles appeared on the main screen. This is Elder Ron of the Valley Council. If anyone receives this message, our civilization is dying. The Drax have taken our cities enslaved. Our people destroyed our history. We are the last free settlement on Valley Prime. Please, if there is anyone out there who values life, who believes in justice, help us. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in silence. Reynolds stood, his jaw set with determination. Battle stations, he ordered. All ships prepare for combat. We're going to give the Valley that help they asked for. The order was transmitted throughout the fleet. Aboard every ship, alarms sounded, and crews rushed to their positions. Marines checked their weapons and sealed their armor. Fighter pilots ran through pre-flight sequences. Engineers brought weapon systems online. Captain Ford coordinated the fleet's approach, using the sensor data to plot the most effective attack pattern. Admiral, recommend we hit them from multiple vectors. Concentrate firepower on the nearest vessels first, then push through to the planet. Reynolds nodded. Do it. Signal the fleet Operation Liberation is a go. Doom Fleet emerged from the outer edge of the Valley system, like avenging angels. The human ships, sleek and angular compared to the organic curves of the Drax vessels, moved with precision that spoke of countless hours of training and preparation. The Drax response was immediate. The blockade formation shifted enemy ships moving to intercept the humans with a speed that suggested their organic appearance hid sophisticated technology. Within minutes, the first shots were fired. The battle for Valley Prime was unlike anything in human history. In the dark vacuum of space, energy weapons created brilliant flowers of light as they struck shields and armor. Human particle beams met Drax biocannons in a deadly dance of destruction. The SNV Yorktown launched its fighters in the initial assault over 200 Viper-class interceptors, screaming toward enemy formations. The young pilots, many of whom had never seen combat, flew with courage that would have made their ancestors proud. Lieutenant Maria Santos found herself leading her squadron against a Drax heavy cruiser, its hull bristling with weapon emplacements. Fox Squadron, target their weapon clusters. Make every shot count. Her fighters dove toward the enemy ship like angry wasps, their pulse cannons stitching lines of fire across the alien hull. The Drax return fire was devastating bioenergetic blasts that seemed to actively hunt their targets, but the pilots had trained for this. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Reynolds watched the battle unfold on multiple screens. The tactical display showed friendly and enemy positions with damage assessments, updating in real time. Early reports were encouraging Drax shields seemed vulnerable to human weapons. Sir, Ford reported, the Wellington is reporting good effect on target. Their particle cannon array punched straight through that enemy cruiser's defenses. But the Drax weren't helpless victims. Their own weapons were proving devastatingly effective against human shields. The SNV Canberra took a direct hit from what could only be described as a living missile, a projectile that seemed to adapt its approach, even as the point defense systems tried to stop it. Canberra is reporting heavy damage to forward sections, the communications officer announced. They're out of the fight. Reynolds gritted his teeth. Vector the Nemesis to support. All ships concentrate fire on the enemy flagship. The battle raged for hours, shifting back and forth across the valley system. Human tactics and training were proving superior to Drax numbers, but the cost was mounting. 3 human ships had been severely damaged, and hundreds of brave men and women were dead or wounded. Then Major Cooper's Marines got their chance. The battle had created gaps in the Drax formation, and Reynolds recognized an opportunity. Major Cooper, he called over the comm. How fast can your people be ready for planetary assault? Cooper's voice was steady, despite the chaos around him. Marines are always ready, Admiral. Just point us at a target. Valley Prime's capital. Elder Ron's transmission came from there. We're going to punch a hole in their line and get you down there. The assault was audacious by any standard. Marine dropships, heavily armored and bristling with weapons, launched from the fleet carriers toward the planet's surface. Their mission was simple: clear a landing zone and establish a beachhead for the larger evacuation effort. Cooper led the first wave, personally standing in the cramped passenger compartment of the lead dropship as it plunged through Valley Prime's atmosphere. Around him, 50 Marines checked their weapons one final time. These were the best of the best volunteers who had trained their entire lives for moments like this. 2 minutes to touchdown, the pilot announced over the intercom. Dropping into a hot LZ. Drax ground forces are confirmed. Cooper keyed his suit's communication system. Listen up, Marines. Intel suggests the Drax have been using Valley civilians as slave labor. Rules of engagement are clear. Protect the innocent, eliminate the hostiles. These people have been waiting 8 months for us to show up. Let's not disappoint them. The dropships hit the surface of Valley Prime like falling stars, their retro-thrusters burning away the last of their velocity. Assault ramps dropped instantly, and the Marines poured out into an alien world under attack. The Valley capital was a mixture of architectural styles that spoke of centuries of peaceful development, graceful spires, and organic curves that humans had only seen in dreams. But now, it was scarred by war. Buildings burned in the distance, and the air carried the acrid smell of destruction. Cooper's tactical display showed enemy positions throughout the city. The Drax had established strongpoints at key intersections and were using Valley civilians as human shields. But Cooper and his Marines had trained for exactly this scenario. 1st Platoon left flank, 2nd Platoon advance down Central Avenue, 3rd Platoon sweep the residential quarter. Remember, we're liberators, not conquerors. The street fighting that followed was brutal and personal. Drax ground forces proved to be as deadly as their space-based cousins, bipedal creatures, with natural armor and weapons that seemed to be part of their bodies. But they had never faced Earth's Marines. Sergeant Tyler Johnson led his squad through a maze of rubble and destroyed vehicles, hunting a Drax sniper that had pinned down a group of Valley civilians. The alien had taken position in what looked like a library, its elevated position giving it a clear field of fire. Garcia Rodriguez with me, Johnson ordered. Peters, keep those civilians down. They moved with the practiced efficiency of warriors who had trained together for years. Garcia and Rodriguez provided covering fire, while Johnson crept around the building's side. The Drax spotted him just as he entered the library, but it was too late. Johnson's assault rifle spoke once, twice, 3 times. The enemy collapsed with barely a sound. Throughout the city, similar scenes played out as human Marines fought to liberate Valley Prime, one building at a time. The aliens they were rescuing were indeed remarkably similar to humans, tall, graceful beings with elongated limbs and large, intelligent eyes. Their gratitude was evident even through the language barrier. Back in space, the main battle was reaching its climax. Admiral Reynolds had made a decision that would haunt him for years to come. The Drax flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the human carriers, was coordinating enemy resistance from the center of their formation. "Captain Ford," Reynolds said quietly, "prepare to implement Nova Protocol." The silence on the bridge was deafening. Every officer understood what was being asked. The Nova Protocol had never been used in combat. Its effects were theoretical at best, catastrophic at worst. Ford nodded slowly. "Aye, sir. Nova Protocol authorized. Target the Drax flagship." The process took several minutes as safety systems were overridden and weapon systems reconfigured. In the meantime, the battle raged around them. The SNV Washington took a direct hit that breached its hull-venting atmosphere and lives into space. Time was running out. "Nova Protocol ready," the weapons officer announced. Reynolds closed his eyes for a moment, thinking of the responsibility he carried. Then he opened them, his resolve stronger than ever. Fire. The Nova Protocol weapon activated with no visible fanfare. There was no beam, no missile, no obvious sign of what had been unleashed. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then, space itself seemed to convulse. Where the Drax flagship had been, reality twisted and folded. A point of absolute darkness appeared darker than space itself, growing larger with each passing second. The artificial singularity pulled in light debris and anything else within its reach. The effect on the Drax fleet was immediate and devastating. Ships caught in the weapon's influence were torn apart at the molecular level, their mass feeding the hungry void. The flagship itself simply ceased to exist, along with 8 other vessels that had been in close formation. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the singularity collapsed. The explosion that followed lit up the entire system, a brief new star that could be seen from every inhabited world within 50 light-years. The surviving Drax ships broke formation immediately. Their perfect blockade shattered as vessels turned and fled using whatever FTL technology they possessed to escape the system as quickly as possible. In less than an hour, the space around Valley Prime was clear of enemy ships. On the planet's surface, Major Cooper received the news with mixed emotions. The Drax ground forces had begun surrendering or fleeing as soon as word reached them that their fleet was gone. But the cost of victory was becoming apparent. Elder Ron of the Valley Council was found in the basement of the capital's main government building, along with several hundred other survivors. The elderly alien was weak but coherent, his large eyes filling with tears when he learned that help had finally arrived. Dr. Chen, who had come down with the medical teams, worked to establish communication with the survivors. The Valley language so carefully studied during the journey proved challenging to speak, but meaning could be conveyed. "Tell him," Cooper said to the translation software, "tell him that Earth sends greetings to the Valley people. We're here to help." Elder Ron's response when translated was simple but profound. "We thought we were alone. We thought everyone had forgotten us." The aftermath of the Battle of Valley Prime revealed the true scope of the Drax atrocity. Of the Valley's population of 2 billion, fewer than 50 million survived. Entire cities had been depopulated, their residents taken as slaves to other worlds. Ancient libraries and museums had been systematically destroyed, erasing centuries of Valley culture and history. But the Valley spirit had not been broken. Those who remained were determined to rebuild, and humanity was there to help them do it. Engineers from the fleet worked alongside Valley craftsmen to restore power grids and water systems. Medical teams treated the wounded and malnourished. Marines provided security, while the planet's own defense forces were reconstituted. Admiral Reynolds established his headquarters in the Valley capital, coordinating both the humanitarian mission and preparations for the fleet's eventual return to Earth. The journey home would be even longer, as they would be escorting a convoy of Valley vessels, carrying refugees to worlds where they could rebuild their civilization. As weeks passed, the relationship between humans and Valley deepened. Cultural exchanges began tentatively, with curiosity on both sides. Human Marines taught Valley children games from Earth, while Valley artists shared their techniques with human engineers. Major Cooper found himself working closely with Elder Ron, who despite his age had taken an active role in coordinating reconstruction efforts. Through their interactions, a friendship developed that would outlast their lifetimes. "Your people," Elder Ron said one day, as they watched human and Valley workers rebuilding a school together. "You traveled so far to help strangers. Why?" Cooper considered the question carefully. "Because it was the right thing to do. Because no one deserves to face extinction alone. Because that's what makes us human, I guess." The elder nodded slowly. "In our language there is a word, Keth Amar. It means those who stand against the dark. That is what you are to us." As preparations for departure began, both species knew that something fundamental had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and neither were the Valley. The message that traveled back to Earth spoke not just of military victory, but of hope. Dr. Brown, watching the fleet's return from Luna Station, received the first transmissions from Admiral Reynolds, with tears in her eyes. The mission had succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Not only had they saved a civilization, but they had forged humanity's first alliance with another intelligent species. The news of the Valley rescue spread across Earth like wildfire. Cities erupted in celebration as people realized that their species had taken its first step into a larger community of civilized beings. Children looked up at the stars with wonder, knowing that somewhere out there, friends waited among the worlds. But perhaps the most important outcome was the message it sent to the galaxy at large. The defeat of the Drax had not gone unnoticed by other species. Ancient civilizations that had hidden from the hunters for millennia began to emerge from the darkness. Within a year of the Battle of Valley Prime, Earth received its first peaceful first contact from 3 different species. The Galactic Council, a loose confederation of surviving civilizations, invited humanity to join their ranks. The Valley, now resettled on several worlds throughout human space, served as Earth's advocates and cultural bridges. The Drax threat, while diminished, was not eliminated. Intelligence gathered from the battle suggested they had fleets operating throughout the galaxy. But now, they faced a united front species working together, sharing technology and resources, standing watch against those who would destroy rather than create. Major Cooper, promoted to colonel after the mission, established the joint Human-Valley Marine Training Program on Mars. The sight of human and alien Marines training together became a symbol of the new age of cooperation. Admiral Reynolds, awarded every honor Earth could bestow, retired to write his memoirs. But the final paragraph of his book spoke to something larger than military victory. "We went to Valley Space expecting to fight for strangers. We returned having gained brothers and sisters. The universe is vast and often cruel, but it is also full of wonders waiting to be discovered. As long as beings of goodwill stand together, no force can extinguish the light of civilization." Elder Ron, now permanently residing on Earth as the Valley's first ambassador, often walked through Central Park in New York City. Children would gather around him, fascinated by his unusual appearance, but drawn to his gentle nature. He would tell them stories of his homeworld of the stars, and of the day ships from Earth appeared in Valley skies, like angels of salvation. The Hawking Drive installation on Luna was expanded into the first interstellar port, welcoming ships from dozens of worlds. Earth had indeed joined the galactic community, but on terms of mutual respect and cooperation, rather than conquest or submission. And in the deepest archives of both Earth and New Valley, the original SOS signal was preserved. 3 short, 3 long. 3 short, a simple pattern that had changed everything. It served as a reminder that sometimes a cry for help from the darkness can kindle a light that illuminates entire galaxies. The story of humanity's first steps into space had been written not in conquest or exploration alone, but in compassion. When faced with the choice between safety and sacrifice, between isolation and involvement, humanity had chosen to stand with the innocent against the dark. And across the galaxy, other civilizations took note. The species that called themselves human from a small blue world on the edge of an ordinary spiral arm had proven that some things were worth fighting for. That life was precious. That no one should face extinction alone. The Deathworlders, as they came to be known among the stars, had indeed sent fleet doom to those who would prey upon the innocent, doom to those who would extinguish the lights of civilization. But they had also sent something else, hope for a future where all intelligent life could flourish together among the stars. Elder Ron's daily walks through Earth's parks continued for many years. He would often pause at the memorial erected for those who had died in the Battle of Valley Prime Human, and Valley names carved together in stone. The inscription, written in both languages, was simple but powerful. They stood against the dark so that others might see the light. And children of two worlds would read those words, look up at the stars, and dream of the day when they too might stand guard against the darkness, carrying forward the legacy of those who had proven that heroism knew no species, no world, no boundary, save the courage to act when action was needed most.